you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right. What is taking so long in the verdict of the jury reaching the verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse case? That's number one off the bat. Look, you never can tell with these things, but, it's generally, given the way the case unfolded, it's generally when you have the facts the way they are and, the evidence in the case that was presented was very clear. All I can tell you is what I've been telling you this entire time. You never can tell, but I know this may come to a shock to everybody who has an idealistic view of our judicial system. But the fact of the matter is juries do not make decisions based on facts and evidence, or at least more often than not, they do not. So it is the defense team's job to make sure that you don't have a fair jury. You have a biased jury, one that's biased in favor of your client. And fact of the matter is, Mark Richards didn't do that. He didn't do it. More than 8 in 10 jury-eligible adults in Kenosha for this case told us that the riots are a concern to them. 83% wanted, under no circumstance, any more riots. They did not think it was healthy for Kenosha. That and a whole lot of other things that I could cite that I probably shouldn't until the case is over. But the fact of the matter is, you don't want an impartial jury. You want a biased jury. That's your damn job. You can sit there until you're blue in the face presenting evidence, but the minute that judge threw out the firearms possession charge, the defense was in danger of having, let's just say two, I'm taking a shot in the dark here, two people on the jury whose belief systems are so it's not even fair to say anti-self-defense. It's fair to say that they're maybe concerned about the backlash. They're concerned about what the implications of the verdict may mean, and then some simply don't. There are just a lot of people, again, that forget about what the law says about self-defense. They don't believe in the principles of self-defense. That's why it's your damn job to root them out before they get on the jury. And you may, again, I don't want to hurt anyone, their idealistic view of our judicial system, but you do hear things. Juries, despite what they're instructed, do tell people, do tell family members. That's why we knew Casey Anthony was innocent before Casey Anthony was innocent. That's how we knew George Zimmerman was innocent until the rest of the world knew George Zimmerman was innocent. The fact of the matter is that is the way the judicial system works. And in today's modern world, information age, whatever you want to call it, misinformation age is a better way to put it. Can you do me a favor and just tell them that I am in the middle of a show right now, but I would be happy to take an interview with her. It is in my text. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. In today's age, the media is such a force for injustice. It is no longer good enough for a defense counsel in a case like this with national implications, with national narrative behind it. It is no longer sufficient to simply argue the facts and the evidence in the case, even if they overwhelmingly benefit your client's defense. What does it matter if he meets the bar on self-defense if there's a juror on that jury who doesn't like guns and doesn't even believe in self-defense? They believe the prosecutor when they say he should have got his you-know-what kicked. That may sound ludicrous to the thinking man and woman, but believe me, they're out there. This is my job. I've been doing it for years. And they wear people down on the jury who just want to go home. Maybe somebody owns a business on freaking Main Street and they don't feel like going home and boarding up their windows because effectively, you want to talk about domestic terrorism. The threat of violence to enact a political outcome is the definition of domestic terrorism. Yet that is what we're seeing being used in Kenosha. That is what we saw used in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in the case of Derek Chauvin. The guy was fried. Basically got the book thrown at him. When every legal expert watching the trial said, well, at the very, he meets the bar for, the manslaughter charge, but second degree, I don't know. That didn't matter to them. It didn't matter. So this is where we're at. So what is taking so long? You can never tell for sure. But for anyone who had been watching the trial and really looking at the evidence and the facts that were presented in this trial, listening to the examination, the cross-examination, you should absolutely know that this verdict should have been not guilty within 30 minutes. Now, some jurors just take their jobs, civic duty, very seriously, and they weigh the hell out of the evidence. The jury did ask for instructions that were pertaining again to the self-defense statutes. So we'll see here. But M. Holla in the comment section, he probably is right. Just from what people hear things. And I'm referring to in the comments is referring to Jack Sovic. Yeah. That is, people hear things, but it's more than that. It wouldn't even surprise me. When this case is over, I will ask if I could show you the research and the pitfalls in selecting a jury, even in a case so cut and dry as this, for those of us who did see evidence that the public didn't see, for those of us who did know certain pieces of evidence, exculpatory evidence, were withheld by the FBI and the prosecution, but knew it was out there. it was very clear looking at it that still, even with it, some people are terrorized and some people are ideologues. And people make decisions in juries based on their belief systems and their personalities. Their life experiences inform those belief systems. And those beliefs clash with someone's personality. And on a jury, this dynamic is very complicated. But what it typically boils down to is, if there is, let's say, one holdout or two holdouts, it is much more likely that the rest of the jury will break that person down over time. It is 90% or greater chance that one, or even sometimes two, but the percentage comes down when it's two, they will break them down over time, or there will be a mistrial. But when it's an ideologue who holds those views, not somebody who is weighing evidence because they think, I think this person may be innocent. The other 10 want to convict him, and the 11 want to convict him, whatever it may be. That person sadly gets worn down in the case of Scott Peterson. For those I know who think that Scott Peterson, the evidence is overwhelming. It was not. The evidence was not overwhelming. Mark Garagos blew jury selection. He blew how the judge handled two specifically very important problems that arose with specific jurors in that case. And it led to whatever they called her, Strawberry, whatever her name was. It led to a pro-Peterson juror getting replaced by somebody who allowed their own life experiences to inform who she believes Scott Peterson was. And she projected every bad thing a man ever did to her onto Scott Peterson, and then broke the rest of the jurors who thought Scott Peterson was innocent. Especially one middle-aged male, working class, who needed to get back to work. So just keep all of this in mind when you hear all this cute little law, analogies. Jonathan Turley updates his blog. None of that matters on a jury. I hate to tell everybody. It simply is not what governs human beings in these decisions. As sad as I was to learn that over time, as far as I know, I literally, and it's not a book yet, but maybe it should be, literally wrote the only modern guidelines for jury selection research. Now, there's been others who wrote books about, what do you look for? What do you do? But as somebody who does survey research, participates in the trial, and then watches how those outcomes play out, it was very clear. They do not render verdicts based on facts and evidence, or at least the vast majority of the time. You know what? That's a great, I just want to interject because I like commenting. I like this back and forth. Do we need divine intervention to fix this injustice system that we have? No, we just need people to smarten the hell up. This was a case that had national implications for the Second Amendment and self-defense. Sadly, I'm not, at least not right now without Robert around. I'm a little hesitant to talk that openly about it. The fact of the matter is, what usually happens. The grifters swarm. They see the opportunity to fundraise and raise money. It's all very sad. They don't use good resources available to them. And I, pray to God it's a kid's life on the line, for crying out loud. But it is more than that. So the principle of self-defense is on the line in this trial. And for something so important, I don't care what all these people, they're like fawning over Richards' performance. His Wisconsin twang. Nobody gives a damn that he sounds like he's from Wisconsin. It doesn't matter. Can people relate more to him? Absolutely. But it doesn't matter if somebody is on that jury who doesn't appreciate the Wisconsin twang. The don't you know Bobby Midwest.
Hey, don't mess with Bob.
I'm not making fun. I'm saying that there are people who are now, recent generations that don't appreciate traditionalism and the principles that are behind traditionalism, like self-defense, to right to one's labor, to the right to defend one's property and person. They don't give a damn about any of that. So here's somebody who sounds and looks like he represents that. They only piss that juror off more.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm literally hearing legal commentary about how masterful it is that he can do it with that Wisconsin twang. I think you need to do a little bit more research. I don't care what degree or how many you got. That is not what renders people's. Yeah, let's do it.
I said yes.
Let's do it.
Of course.
And once it's confirmed, then I'll tell the audience. Barnes and I are apparently going to.
We're waiting for Barnes.
Okay, then let me know exactly when that's firm, and I'll tell people because they'll watch it. And I'll elaborate much more after I get Robert's okay to talk about some stuff. I'll elaborate much more on what I am talking about here. And the judge, a lot of people went off, well, he got rid of that. The minute he got rid of that misdemeanor charge, that was the compromise charge. Okay. So yeah, he's not guilty of murdering anybody. This was really self-defense. However, we could hang this misdemeanor weapons possession charge on him and everybody can go home feeling a little bit good about themselves. The minute that happened, did Robert put him out? I mean, I don't know how much he put out, though. I mean, he may have. Robert is very good at, not cherry picking in the bad sense, but feeling like it's okay to tell people about this answer or that answer. I will also tell you this. This is why I'm saying it is not simply enough to have an impartial trial, because the deck, if it is against the national media's narrative, the deck is completely stacked against these folks. And it's just not Kyle Rittenhouse. It's everybody. In the case of Zimmerman and others, very similar. Darren Wilson never made it past the grand jury, but had it, then it would have been that also. That too would have been a jury selection trial. The facts were clearly on Darren Wilson's side, but it wouldn't have mattered if you would have had somebody like that pastor. I asked Laura to write it down because he's a perfect example. Bishop Talbert.
See?
Thank you, Bishop Talbert, for the advertisements on Twitter for Robert and I services. I want to thank you for tweeting like an imbecile because you're actually proving my point to people. It's almost as if we didn't just have a public trial and all the facts and evidence were not just aired out to everybody. Nothing that was said during the course of that trial, if you were to sew the bishop's eyelids open, okay, and forced him to watch every second and every moment of that trial, nothing he would have saw, nothing he would have heard would change his mind, because he believes that whites are racist and they will gun down black people in the street any chance they get. And nothing the prosecutor or the defense, nothing laid out during the course of the trial would change the bishop's mind. If he's on that jury, he's going to hold out until the rest of the jury falls or it's a mistrial. Why? Because people don't make decisions based on facts and evidence. More often than not, they make them based on beliefs, systems which are informed by their life experiences. Again, geez, are you kidding me?
I'm sorry.
We don't know how to turn down phones at this point in the show.
Kiss my grits.
All right.
I'm triple working for you.
Remember Scott Peterson? The woman, they removed, I'm struck. I think his name was Travis. They removed Travis, who was going to be the most influential foreman, because he slightly indicated that he did not believe there was enough evidence so far from what he had seen to convict Scott Peterson. The prosecution goes to the judge, who was deeply biased against Scott Peterson. The judge removes Travis, puts on Carrot Top. That was her name, right? Isn't that what we call the strawberry or Carrot Top, right? Puts her on I can't even remember. Puts this woman who has been in one abusive relationship after the other, has daddy issues galore, blames Scott for everything any guy has ever done wrong to her in her entire life. They're Scott Peterson. You know, like every time you see protests like, I am George Floyd, I am Mike Brown. This woman was like, I am Lacey Peterson. And she became the most influential, and in fact was the foreman on that juror, I believe. The most influential. She ground those people down because her ideology and her life experience, her ideology, her belief systems, which were informed by her life experiences from abusive relationships, could not let her see what was in front of her. The dog was pseudoscience, right? Pseudoscience. What did eventually she get the last juror who was holding out? Why did she grunt? What was his? It wasn't even a real reason. It was his justification. And I know because he was interviewed after. It was his justification for finally throwing in the towel against her and coming to a guilty verdict in the Scott Peterson trial. What was his justification? The dog. The dog was pseudoscience. That stuff isn't even admissible in court anymore. Yet that overweighed his very real concern that Scott could not have possibly have thrown his pregnant wife, who weighed as much as she did, off of that boat without tipping the boat, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep.
Physics was outweighed by pseudoscience because this woman with a fanatical anti-man ideology ground that guy down. And another woman, too, who didn't really think Scott was guilty, but she was a very weak personality. There are about 4 personality types. Sometimes you can have a little bit of one or another, but you are dominant in one personality or the other. If you are I want to please everybody kind of bubbly or yellow, right? If you're one of those, I want to please everybody kind of, a red will grind you into submission each and every time. A red who is about control and persuasion and being decisive even if you're wrong. A red will grind you down every time because yellow just wants to please and they don't want to make waves. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what? I really don't agree with you, but, for the sake of the group, I'll go along. That was the dynamic that played out in the Scott Peterson trial. Very rarely do you get one like you do in the case of Casey Anthony, which did have some dominance. But the fact of the matter is those people were more, it's a rarity. And when I say rarity, it's like 5%. When you get a jury who really is just, I want to take this seriously. The woman's life is at stake. We're going to do this right, or we're going to try to do it right. Even if it means letting a killer go, we're going to try to do this right in the letter of the law. Folks, the other 2 types is one is the shepherd. The other one is the analyst, basically. So good shepherd, very much introverted, does not like confrontation either, which is very easily to persuade. But they're very like red. They're very good leaders. Only red usually uses tools, and I'm a red. All right, so I'm not trying to dog it. I am a red with a hint of blue, or a lot of blue, but I am dominant red. My son is a green, which causes us to clash like crazy. All right, but a green is like, if Jesus Christ was a color, he would have been green.
He's a shepherd.
He's a good shepherd. Yeah, he doesn't get people to do what he wants. Green can manipulate too, quite a bit, but they do it in a different way. It's subtle. Red manipulates, and they do it by force and being decisive, and the projection of being a good leader because you take action and you're about control. You don't let your environment or things get out of control. You want to be in charge because you like efficiency. Not always because you're a control freak, but because you like to be efficient. You can't stand how like green and blue will ponder over and over the same thing.
Listen, blue doesn't ponder
Laura's a blue. Laura's a blue. Right. Just so everybody knows.
Let's make the list of the whole situation, pros and cons, and then we make a decision. Unlike a red who's like, go, 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 go.
Yes, that's absolutely that's absolutely true. And by the way, why Laura and I work, I think, among other things, is that she's dominant blue, but has red undertones. I am dominant red, but I have blue undertones. So I appreciate it when she says, Rich, we need to take a breath and really weigh something out here. So I appreciate that. I can see her reasoning behind that. And then with me, sometimes she can appreciate when I'm like, Laura, I get what you're trying to do here, but we've got to make a decision and move on. Like, that's it. So that can work. But reds can grind these people down. And green can also, and often becomes a jury foreperson as well. But they use different, it doesn't mean they're not manipulators. They can manipulate the hell out of yellow and manipulate the hell out of blue. The only one who ever sees what they're doing is a red. But it doesn't matter because red is combative and it's not particularly persuasive on how red tries to tell yellow and blue you're being manipulated. This is all very interesting stuff. And honestly, we probably should dedicate an entire episode just to this. But people are out there like, oh, you know what? Look, he could still come back with innocent verdicts. But the rumors, which is what we put up, Robert, okay, I'm just saying what Robert did release here. Because somebody said, Robert said 2/3 of potential jurors had preconceived guilt. That's absolutely true. And 1/3 of those were hard guilty and not changing their mind. That's absolutely true. I mean, he's right. Basically, this is what we found. They believed he should not have been there. If you told them the statute, which we did, if you told them the statute, wouldn't matter. They don't believe children should have weapons. They don't believe a 16-year-old had any business with an assault rifle. That's these people. And it wouldn't matter. Nobody would be dead if Kyle wasn't there with a gun. That's them. You see them on Twitter a lot. In truth, they're not a huge percentage of the population. Twitter's not real life. But they do exist, and they're there. And you are highly likely to run into multiple jurors in voir dire that could end up on your jury who are like that. And you're sunk, Mark Richards. You're sunk. The minute that happens, you sunk your client. Again, it may come down to personalities, and maybe the others will wear down these two. But there are two who are the rumors are two holdouts. They are half concerned about what will happen to Kenosha, and the other half, based on their disbelief. And again, they sat through the whole damn trial, so they're no different than Bishop Talbot over here. It doesn't matter what the letter of the law says or the statute says. It just doesn't matter. All right? So with that in mind, I hope that, provides some kind of context and illumination of this stuff. Nick, it's just not a good sign that we're here. It's just not a good sign. You watch the trial, I watch the trial. Anyone who is trying to be impartial, or at least you try to watch as much as possible, I'm sure everyone here is an informed viewer. If you're looking at the letter of the law, this really is nothing to debate over. There is nothing to debate over here. Look at the David Frenches of the world. He is supposed to be a conservative, yet his argument is, Kyle was too young for a gun. David, my 12-year-old son is probably more responsible with a firearm than you are. My 12-year-old son, I know for damn sure, is more responsible with a rifle than 95% of the people I see on my Twitter feed. Firearm safety isn't really about age. Anyone who is in the gun community, the firearm community, hates when people start talking about age. Because we know plenty, 35, 40, 45, 50, whatever. We know plenty of post-teen adults who have no business, even after self-defense training, they have no business with a firearm. Alec Baldwin. Half of Hollywood. So there where it is. So what time is it?
12:05.
And it's live?
Yeah.
be on the Megyn Kelly show at 12:05 with Robert to discuss this much more. All right, or just I'll tweet it out. But we're going to discuss this much more with Megyn Kelly because especially people on the right who are more often than not. What do Darren Wilson, Michael Brown, George Zimmerman, and I am not defending the virtues of George Zimmerman. I'm talking about the facts of the case because every time I saw you went during the George Zimmerman trial. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about the kind of guy George Zimmerman is. I'm talking about self-defense and the letter of the law. What do George Zimmerman, Michael Brown, Kyle Rittenhouse, and a slew of others we could talk about all have in common? They are the targets of a left-wing media smear campaign that ends up poisoning the jury pool when they go to the justice system. And in some cases, it works out, and in others, it doesn't. Let me explain, though. It often doesn't work out. You just don't hear about it as much. I'm reading some really good comments here. Right. Is David aware that thousands of Wisconsin teens are in the woods and the marshes with guns for months at a time each year without incident? Exactly. David French is an idiot. David French is one of those DC fake conservatives who doesn't have a shred of backbone in his body. He doesn't stand for any of the principles that he and all of those guys have been claiming they have stood for years. He has sat back while the left has eroded the concept of masculinity, the concept of self-defense, self-preservation, the right to labor. He's a chump. He's a token opposition chump who is ineffective at stopping anything. So they love to have guys like David French around. Guys like David French are why Rick Scott caved and took gun rights for rifles away from 21 years, those under 21, 18 to 21, after the Parkland shooting. The truth of the matter is, the vast majority of gun violent incidents involving 18 to 21-year-olds are not involving rifles. They involve handguns. The vast majority of them are not school shootings. They're black on black violence in the urban American centers. You won't make a dent with laws like that in the overall crime statistics year to year by doing that. Yet, we took, with Davey, people like Davey over there, cheerleading with his, National Review pom-poms up and down. We took away the rights of 18 to 21-year-olds who David could send off to war to die on one of his nation-building exercises. But now they can't own a rifle at home. You can stick one in their arms and kick them to a rock so all of those chodes can make money and all of their contractor friends can make money on so-called nation-building, foolish exercises and failed attempts to get other civilizations to hold the values we hold, which is ridiculous. We can do that, but they can't own a firearm at home. Okay, what is this? What are you sending this to me for?
Look at the highlighted part so you can say.
No, I don't want that plug. I don't want that plug. Can we talk about this after? Locals.com. This is a middle of a show here. All right.
I'm not talking about.
I do not want. We're not even using
the air date.
It doesn't. Oh, okay. Excellent.
Part.
But that is not the plug I want.
I know this.
All right. So, I haven't plugged that in years. Mm-hmm. So please, no. I'm a little bit aggravated here too because I don't like things thrown in my face in the middle of talking. But also, I'm aggravated because I'm getting a little bit tired, Laura, of this, and you watch this day in and day out because you're with me day in and day out. I'm getting sick and tired of like telling people things, them being too stupid to listen, and then it happening. It's getting annoying. Somewhat, all at somebody else's expense, by the way. It's always at somebody else's expense. It'll be at the expense of, if it happens, it'll be at the expense of the very principle of self-defense and at the expense of this young man's life, who he put on the stand, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Richards put this kid on the stand, even though the prosecutor was the most incompetent idiot you could have drew from the pool. And honestly, it was more than incompetence. He never had a case. So it's incredibly difficult to make a case when you don't have one. So you wind up looking like an idiot. You might pick up a firearm and point it at the jury. But again, that will work on some of those jurors, folks. This is what you need to understand. That will work on some of those jurors. All right. So it looks like I got to cut this short because this is coming up, correct?
Yeah, you have to cut it at 12. And we're
well, I mean, I have to cut it short because it's going to take me a second. I can't just jump from one to the other. Guy's going to watch that. And then, so what is, if today's Wednesday, then I'm doing something tomorrow because I had a lot more we needed to talk about. And I get that sometimes you got to deal with people's time constraints, and I totally get that. She is doing something today, so she needs to. The verdict could be down 5 minutes. The verdict can be down in 5 hours. I get that this is a time constraint, but I did want to talk about so far. You know what? Let's move on real quick. I will show people my locals survey results. Oops, where are we? Come on, locals. Come on, locals. Yeah, that morning consult poll is garbage. I did see that question. Look, I'm not trying to malign anybody. But the fact of the matter is these people have not polled very well at all forever. They've never been one of the more accurate polls. They're continuing to do things, at least, and you guys know if you watch this, at least some of the people have attempted to fix their mistakes and have attempted to do better. It doesn't look like Morning Consult, who, if you remember, after the election of 2020, we went through the spreadsheet. They were among the worst pollsters of 2020. Mm-hmm. They have not fixed anything. How could you, if you're even on the generic ballot right now, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with your poll. All right. So, I mean, honestly, some of these polls that are holding Joe Biden in the low 30s, I saw Tom Bevan, new low 41.6. Tom, it's only at 41.6 because you exclude the most accurate pollster in the country and others. You exclude him and you include what is garbage. You know it's garbage and I know it's garbage. Losing patience with some of this. This is nonsense. All right. Yeah, so here it is without showing any personal information or stats. 374 votes so far. Should we add Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris at the 2024 hypothetical matchup? And I said, this is an easy one to add. It doesn't really hurt the format because you can just add it to the 2024 section. I'm considering only because of the tension between the White House and the office of the vice president. And it looks like overwhelmingly locals wants it in there. 76%, 75.9 to 24.1. You know that I really never believed Joe Biden would run again, despite his public and private statements. I just don't buy it. I don't think he's going to be capable, even if he wants to. I think it'll be much harder for it to happen, but yeah, guys, I'm not saying it can't happen, that an acquittal can't happen. It absolutely can, but it is, I'm just saying my experience, if they're asking for instructions on what they're asking for and it's not clear to them yet, this was not a case that was particularly difficult to wade through prior evidence. There weren't a whole lot of witnesses. There isn't a lot of, forensic evidence. There just isn't. It's not a complicated case. I mean, considering, I know it may be one of the first that some of you have watched, wall to wall. But there are cases we've worked on that are I mean, there's forensics, ballistics, widespread testimony, expert testimony, eyewitness testimony. That didn't really happen here. They had some video footage. They had some, people who were involved with the incident. They had their testimony. This was not a difficult case. A use of force expert. This was a rather simple case. So it should not be that hard. All right. All right. So again, where we're at, I'm just simply saying Richards could have and had the opportunity to pick a jury that would have came back already with not guilty, and this kid would be home by now. And people should start to realize the realities of the justice system and put the corny legalese away. There's evidence I'm right every day on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. Every day on social media. By the way, last thing I'll say before I guess I have to wrap this up, but last thing I'll say is this. When we came out with the tracking poll in 2016, and we also had sub panels for the battleground states, we got ripped from the Slimers of the world, and basically said that you can't conduct surveys the way he conducts surveys. It's not legitimate, blah, blah, blah. We explained to some people in many, many interviews that we were intentionally recruiting a panel that would not change all that much. And that all, why? Because our response bias is creating artifacts of the poll, and those swings that you see are artificial swings. They're not real. It's because you're reaching different people each time. That was the whole point of that exercise. But it ultimately came down to how we recruited for the panel. And that's not legitimate. Blah, 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 blah. Here we are now 5 years later. My record is far superior to anything they have done. And the actual, folks, the title of the annual seminar at APOR this year is How to Recruit Web Panelists Using Social Media. I kid you not. It's unbelievable. They're literally 5 years ago, it was illegitimate and should get you banned from the scorecard. Okay. Today, it's innovative research. I'll leave it at that. I just really want, by the way, the entire concept of using larger panels to represent the overall electorate, because the laws of randomization have been violated, basically, in the modern world, was also unacceptable and controversial. And now that is the methodology behind the AmeriSpeaks panel used by the AP and Fox News for their voter analysis, which you'll see on Election Day. That took the place of exit polls there, So with that in mind, I just wanted to leave it with that. We will come back here. At the very least, I got to talk more to locals about this. I was hoping to do this today. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow, because what happens is on Friday, Don Smith comes on, and there's just simply not enough time at the second half of the show to go over the questionnaire. We need to go over this questionnaire. Do what you can to share this far and wide. Let me give you the most updated amount. I mean, folks, I'm going to run on Friday regardless, because we're out of time. All right. We're at Thursday? Just under halfway. I'll ask Robert too, maybe if he can help circulate this. Yeah. We're just under halfway on the contributions for the public polling project this month. But I've got to get started Friday if we're going to get this done before before Thanksgiving. People won't take these surveys over the holidays. We always skipped holidays. So it's just the way, it's just the way it is. So I'm seriously considering just pulling the trigger anyway, but let's see if we can't get this thing circulated. I put the link in the video descriptions, tweet it out, people, do whatever you can, and let's see what we can get. We can get it done, how much we can get this funded. And I'll also say this, Robert is always really good for a bump. We haven't been on War Room, which is always good for a bum. War Room always has a little contribution to it as well. So we'll see. But it is Wednesday. We have about 2 more days. Let's try to get there as fast as, as best we can. I do understand it's the holidays, but that's got to be the cutoff. It has to be. I mean, we could do between November and December, but that's kind of what we were doing anyway. And then after talking with the locals community, maybe we will go a couple weeks. CD Media wanted to do another one. So that would be already 2 polls in December, in the month of December, which is tough because we got to bounce around before Christmas and in between Christmas and New Year. Maybe it's tough, guys. It's tough. People go on vacation, they disappear, so it's not that I'm very strict when it comes to times of polling. I really do believe it matters. And most of these holidays, I think this year fall on a weekend, don't they? I think New Year's is Monday, but I got to go and look. But I think Christmas falls on Friday, and that would really hurt us. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to go. But don't forget to spread that far and wide. You can follow me on Getter, at People's Pundit on Getter. I'm still on Twitter, at People's_Pundit. If you like the videos and you watch on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, like the page or like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we go live. We try to give everybody an alternative. You can watch on Rumble. You can watch on YouTube. If you're on Rumble, go ahead and give us that Rumble, that little plus sign, and of course, subscribe. That will also let you know we're going to go live. Jay, you're going to see us before Friday. We got too much to do. I got to sneak something in here. Whether it's tomorrow, I'm thinking it's going to have to be tomorrow. I'm thinking I'm going to need an Inside the Numbers short version tomorrow. Maybe another hour just to go over the questionnaire, maybe whatever is that's happening in the news. All right. But all right. So, I got about 10 minutes before I got to prep for this thing. So we're going to roll. Keep your eyes peeled. It is live, right? You said 12:15 Sirius XM.
Recorded. It's live on XM. And it's
live
getting
on XM.
recorded, and it will be aired at 4.
Keep on the locals page. Laura will throw all that out there. All right. So you guys can check it out. Should be a good one. All right, folks. I'm going to go. Watching Inside the Numbers. Stay tuned. Wait, probably, like I said, tomorrow, which would be the same time. All right, folks. Catch you soon.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.